Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today. So I'll start on looking at the idea of chaos. So when I think of chaos, I can think of something like chaos theory, the explanation for the inexplicable. Or you could look at Greek mythology and Norse mythology and the origin of the gods, the idea that they were born from chaos. There's also a theory that within alchemy, the philosopher's stone, that the first ingredients was chaos. But when we look at it from a creative point of view, creativity is chaos in itself. With every act of creation, there is an act of destruction. To create something, you must first deconstruct it to create something new. Zine makers can often be anarchists. They take something within society, they deconstruct it, and then build something new from that, some part of a subculture that represents themselves. So I'm here today as a part of Made in Vietnam Zine. I'm the art director of the group, and we started in April of this year, and it was part of my inspiration for getting involved was through Hanoi Zine Library, who are here today, and I met them at a collage event here in the city. I'd heard about zines before, but through them I got to learn about zine making and about the research behind it and everything that goes into it. That inspired me to move forward with that. And when you can, in the city, you can find Hanoi Zine Library throughout everywhere. There are 3 new locations that are set up within the city, and I'll explain a little bit more about that later. So let's look a little bit more at Made in Vietnam. So Made in Vietnam is an art book, and the main idea behind what we do is we accept applications from different people in the city. People send us new work and ideas, and we will take them all together, no matter what the format. You could send us photography, filmmaking, music, poetry, writing, anything, and the idea is to put it all in one space. So we distribute these books throughout the city, both in Hanoi and Saigon, and we will pass them around to galleries, local businesses, art spaces, with the hope that we can take the work that is sent to us and pass it out to people, showing new work and new ideas, an opportunity that maybe you won't have otherwise. So it is difficult when you create something to pass it along to people. And a part of zine culture is to bring together a community and give them new opportunities. By passing these along, we went to spaces both in Hanoi and Saigon, like some of the major galleries like Heritage Space, the Factory Arts, different places like that, and we interacted with the curators and the influencers and passed the books on to them. But it's also putting them out to the public. It's just sharing something, sharing new ideas. It's important when you create something to be able to pass it on to others. And here are some photographs of us all together. This was at the 2 on the sides here, at our initial event here in Hanoi. This is our release of our first book. That was at ClickSpace. And then in the center, that's all of us at the opening of the Hanoi Zine Library location at Tin Zao. So I think a big thing that I've taken away from this, apart from a lot of the skills that I've learned in putting together the art books and enjoying just the process of zine making, was also the community that you build around it. So I managed to meet new people and be able to enjoy new things around the city because of it. My background is in curation and art direction, and often I've been in quite different artistic settings. When you're within a gallery space, it can be somewhat repressing within the white cube space, but with the zine layout, you can take it and place it anywhere. There is no limitation to where you can go with it. And here is a few examples of our printed books. So these were when we were in Saigon a few months back, and we've also created different layouts of the books so that they were available to everyone. The ones with the red bindings were slightly cheaper photocopies, and then with the black bindings, they're a slightly higher quality print. I also tried my hand at doing some hand stitching with that, but that proved a little bit too time consuming for the bigger picture, but I hope to maybe do some slightly simpler techniques with that. And the picture on the left there is our setup at the Factory Arts Centre. They have an amazing art library there, and we're very lucky to be a part of that. So I'd like to explain to you a little bit more about what a zine is and what the community is behind it. So people, I just have this quotation here from a group in London that ran one of the queer zine fests a few years ago. People are drawn to zine communities because they're speaking answers and voices that they're not seeing and hearing in mainstream media. Zines can shape social change much in the same way that pop narratives shape mass culture. They can open dialogues and fuel movements in the same way that political pamphlets and queercore zines did. Writing and reading zines can liberate people in very real, meaningful ways. So here are some more locations. So this is Hanoi Zine Library, and they're set up here in Hanoi. So we have Café there, Heritage Space, and Tinzao. Let's look a little bit more at what a zine is. A zine is a small printed publication that is made cheaply or using a photocopier. There can be around 500 copies, no more than that, usually. And it's something that's distributed in the community. You can take it absolutely anywhere. Recently, over the summer, I went to Berlin and I brought some copies of Made in Vietnam there. And it was really amazing to be able to share that with different spaces. People have such excitement and enthusiasm to see new content like that. And it was really great to take the work that was from here and bring it over there. So there are many different kinds of zines. There could be a per-zine, which is a personal zine that you create, a fanzine that's part of a dedication to a certain subject. And fanzines open up a whole other selection of different things, like sci-fi, LGBT, feminist zines. There was a particular fanzine in the library that I absolutely loved that was dedicated to Josh Groban. And it was a specific letter that was sent to, there was a Twitter account that was made as a fan page for Josh Groban. And the zine itself was that letter to Twitter, begging Twitter to please allow them to continue to have the Josh Groban account. And it was saying, I am not Josh Groban, please let me continue to be Josh Groban. So, but a zine has no structure. It can be in any format. The majority are printed like this using a photocopier, but there is no limitation, especially with the development of the internet. You can put it online, you may never have a physical printed copy. It's just the idea of sharing your passion in a publication form. Often it is difficult to, if you don't have the opportunity to share your ideas on a platform, you have to construct that platform yourself, and that is what zine culture is. I forgot about this slide here. So this is sort of illustrating exactly what a zine is. So this here is an example of a printed zine, and then I just wanted to include the cat on the photocopier, really, but that probably could be a whole collection of zines, but I don't think it would be very fair to the cat. So I'd like to show you an example of one of the first ever printed zines. This is The Comet that was started in the 1930s, and it is one of the earliest examples of sci-fi fan fiction. So it was started by a science group in the States, and it is a series of illustrations and articles and comic strips. This was obviously kind of before photocopiers were really a thing, so it was something very unique in how it was created. And then I'm going to jump forward to a bit further in science fiction. So this was a little bit like the Trekkie Bible. This is Spockenalia, and it was created by fans of the Star Trek show in the 60s. And it has a whole series of artwork and, again, articles and stories that they created, and kind of what we think of with fan fiction as main TV shows and people waxing lyrical, writing romantic stories about that. And Spockenalia was probably a good example of that. And the characters on the show actually used this as a reference point. They were encouraged to read every issue of this, and they would even write letters to the zine in character. And I have an example here. So in Spockenalia 3, which is illustrated in this picture here, one of the submissions was an erotic fan fiction, and people did not take very kindly to this, and there was this fantastic editor's letter in the following issue that addressed it. I loved how very articulate it was, and just it owned itself. So I'm just going to show you here that dirty article. We've been told that a couple of the items in Spockenalia 3 are embarrassing, dirty, or downright trashy. If we've embarrassed you, we are sincerely sorry. The reoccurrence of the theme of sex involving Spock is also unsurprising. We Star Trek femme fans find him attractive and highly masculine. Some of us are articulate, and the result is predictable and even logical. If anyone is seriously concerned, psychiatrists regard such a feeling as perfectly normal if they're non-obsessive, and artistic endeavour as a healthy outlet. We, the editors of Spokonalia, try our best to print material which we consider well-written, interesting to us, and written within our format. We do not choose to limit ourselves by eliminating one effective segment of our submissions. I thought that was an excellent response to that kind of thing, because often when you're creative, you receive a lot of criticism, so it's good that you can articulate yourself and own your decisions. So jumping forward into the 1970s, this is when zines started to really come into their own with the punk movement. So this was at the stage where it was very easy and photocopiers were everywhere. It was very cheap and affordable to create the zines. If you could make a band poster, you could make a zine. And for many people, it was putting two fingers up to the establishment. And it was a great platform for new bands like The Clash and the Sex Pistols. It was an excellent way for them to start sharing their music, and it spread very fast within the community. In the middle as well, we've got an example of the Riot Girl movement, which was which was the feminist movement within the punk genre, and with bands like Bikini Kill, and their zine Revolution Girl Style Now. So it started to really come into its own around this time, and then it spread on from there into many different subgenres. And I've got some examples here of different feminist scenes. On the left, there's Karen Ablaze, and she would interview post-punk bands kind of entering the grunge era. And she received a lot of different criticism by male fans of grunge movement, and she turned that into a mixture of interviews and a feminist scene in itself. And they've also, as you can see, they've also got some really great titles like Satan Wears a Bra, and particularly like this one here, which is a Bikini Kill colouring in book. And then they even replicate some of the more modern printed magazine styles that looks like some kind of teen magazine with Venus scene there. Zines allow a freedom of expression that cannot be limited. These are some examples of LGBT zines here. And like I say, it builds a community where you can express yourself, you can share your ideas. What you say and what you want to, the community you want to build, that cannot be controlled, because within a zine culture, you build that yourself. And then you find other people that share your same voice. So there's another great title, Open Chested, A Love Letter to Bjork. I'm now going to show you some zines from Vietnam. So probably should have prepared you for the cover. So Hanoi Zine Library have come along today with some of the examples of zines that you can find in Vietnam. And there's a growing culture for it here. So there's the Vanguard zine, which is an LGBT zine that's based here. Pavement, E-Teen. There's a collection of photographs by Neil Macy. Those two queer lexicons and Six Space have their own zines. So Hanoi Zine Library are just going to pass them around for you to have a look at. So I'm now going to explain a little bit about how you could start up your own zine. So I've got here an example of our site where we've uploaded the zine. So like I said before, it's very easy to upload your content online. If you don't, perhaps the cost of printing, even with photocopiers, might limit you, or maybe you don't have the right audience right where you are to share your information, or you want to spread it even further on an international level. And what we did was we uploaded ours onto a free Wix site, and I quite like Wix because it's very easy to use. It's, you're not too limited with how you can structure it. Other people could use Issue, which is the one on top there, and that's good for uploading, as is Flipsnack. And you could also put them up for sale on somewhere like Etsy. These are just a few examples of some sites you could use. There may be another platform that you're more comfortable with WordPress. With Creative Mornings, you'll get 15% off. And yeah, I wanted to keep it a free platform for the site because I didn't want to end up owning the domain. So even though it leaves you with the long domain name and the little advertising Wix banner, I felt like it was a good way to represent what we were doing and share it on a wider scale. And here are some examples of how you could maybe design your zine. Like I said before, there's no limitation to how you can structure it. So you could be as simple or as ambitious as you want. We're going to show you one of the easiest forms that you can do using a sheet of A4 today. In the corner there you can see there's just this kind of accordion style book that's folded up. You could watch YouTube tutorials. There are tons of very cutesy YouTube tutorials that will show you how to do some really great bookbinding techniques. This is using a sewing machine, just going straight along the binding. Or you've got Japanese stab bind here. And I love this one in the corner. I would love to be at that level, but I'm still working on some of my bookbinding skills. I want to now show you how you can make your own zine. So I'm just going to pass around some sheets of paper and I'm going to illustrate to you how you can do one yourself. And then I've got a little exercise on how we can start to make our own zine. I'd like you to start off with your sheet of paper, and then I would like you to fold it in half. Make sure you get a good line along, because if it gets a bit wonky, it starts to get more wonky as you make the zine. So fold it here, and then fold it again. And then, one last time. Make sure you've got a good line on there. So you should have something about this size. And then I want you to open it up. Okay. So you should have 8 different squares on the page. Very good. And then I want you to give it a kind of winged effect here. So fold the 2 outer pages in. Very good. So you should have something like this. Okay, and then if you've got access, I think we've got a few scissors circulating around. So what I would like you to do is to take the paper like this, and then along this line just here, I want you to make a cut up to this point. So I'll just show you here. So if you hold it like this, once you've made the cuts, and then I want you to turn it in like that. And then just go over those folds again. And you should have something like this. And from there, you can fold it into a little book. And then you've got your first little zine there. So, has everyone got it? Yeah? Good. So we'll jump ahead a little bit, and we've got a little exercise for you. Has everyone got a pen today? So within your zine, you've got all these different pages here, and if you were to open it up, you can start on the other side as well. So you have all these different parts that you can make. Sometimes people will actually open it up and make an entire poster, and then fold it up, so you've got all the different aspects of the poster, and then you open it wide and you've got the full image. But what we're going to do today is just thought up a few kind of silly exercises just so we can create a zine. And what we'll do is I'll give you one assignment, and then I want you to fold the page back and then pass it on to the person next to you. And then we'll have a kind of collective zine from all of us. So, okay, so we've got our zine making challenge here. So if you go on to the first point, your first challenge is to write or draw about chaos. Okay, 10 more seconds. So now I want you to fold the page and then pass it on to the person next to you. You two are fine, okay. Yeah, you two draw each other, then you two. So you can plan everything with cue cards, but okay, we'll draw each other. Again, I've explained this quite chaotically, so it's okay if you haven't got the exact right page. No! Don't call someone out on it, put it away. That's not in the spirit of things. Terrible zine master. Terrible. Okay.
And I'd just like everyone to give a very big thank you to Bex for her wonderful talk on zines and chaos. Thank you very much.
Thank you.